A big change is headed our way in the way we watch movies. At the end of the year, Hollywood's going digital. It's a move that will cost theaters an average of $70,000 a screen.
Many of the major film companies are now switching over to these digital projectors.
Hollywood is moving away from film. Theater owners around the globe are being told time is running out to convert.
I know that what they'll miss is they'll miss the sound of the projectors. They'll miss all of that. It has some really fond memories for people.
I can't fault people for not being interested or knowing how this works, because most people don't. I mean, that was me before it started. I didn't know how any of it worked. I just liked watching movies. I mean, almost anybody can do it, but to do it well, you actually have to care a little bit about the presentation. I'm gonna miss it for sure. I mean, you know, you can't avoid missing something you've been doing for 6 years straight. Something you considered yourself to be pretty good at.
Ever since I was a kid, I liked going to the theater. It was a thing you did. You know, anyone can watch movies at home, but you go to the theater, you get your tub of popcorn, you get your candy or your drink or whatever. You go into this big room and watch a movie. It's an experience. You know, the sounds, you know, of the theater. You know, you can hear the projector going off when you're in the theater. You can hear it starting up. It's exciting. That's like, you know when the movie's about to start because you can hear the projector starting to go. I'm Patrick Jensen. I am the projection manager. I always felt like I was going to work at a movie theater. Like I loved being in a movie theater. I saw Land Before Time was the first movie I ever saw.
I flied? No, you followed. I fall.
As a concessionist, I was terrified of projection because all I heard was stories like, this guy scratched this film, ruined the movie, got fired, or he can't work projection anymore. When I came here, they hired me on as assistant. They're like, well, you know, you're gonna have to work with projectors. And I was a little hesitant, but then once I actually was shown and didn't hit any buttons that I wasn't told specifically to hit, started making sense and started liking it a lot.
Digital's clear, it's pretty, you know, but there's something, you know, sort of, especially for the projectionist, there's a visceral, sort of tactile, coming in touch with the film, you know, working with it. Unless you've actually done it, it's hard to explain the feeling of it. You know, it's, you feel like you're connected to the whole line, from the guy who shot it to the guy who's projecting it. My name's Cliff Campbell. I run a movie theater. I'm the general manager. Well, this theater's getting ready to go out of business.
Showing the film on this type of automated equipment requires the removal of the leaders and tails and splicing together the standard 20-minute reels used for shipping to produce a continuous performance on a single projector.
The movies come in 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 reels, depending on how long they are.
You go from 6 of these smaller reels to usually about 2 of these big reels, and then you put them on the platter all together into one big film.
They'll either come heads out or tails out, and the head is the beginning of the movie, tail is the end. So you want to attach the tail of reel 1 to the head of reel 2, so it just looks like one consistent reel of film.
And it pops holes in them and cuts it so it'll go through the gears without messing up. You got to do both sides just so it doesn't come undone in the middle of the movie.
And then we have another machine designed specifically for putting film onto the platter.
This is actually probably the longest part of the build, is just getting it on there. So I got to build it onto here. We have a 3-platter system, so mostly so you can build while you're playing movies, but also it'll be if you have 2 movies playing on the same theater, so you can have one sitting unused while the other one goes on to these two platters.
The film is a celluloid strip. A gelatin coating on one side contains the images of pictures and recorded sounds. Celluloid, unfortunately, is not the world's strongest material. Therefore, motion picture film must be handled with care to protect it from damage. You see what I mean?
You have leader, which is celluloid like the film, only it's not exposed, it's very thick, and it's really durable. You can yank on it and pull on it, and you attach that so that you can thread that through the projector and through the platter system.
They have a device in the middle called the brain. It's just a series of rollers with a swing arm that controls the speed of the platter, so it doesn't spin too fast or too slow. It leads off the center of the first platter. You run it through a series of rollers, so there's not any drastic twists or turns. And then hooks onto the ring on another platter, then that winds up around the ring as it plays. From there, you take that stuff you just ran through from platter to platter and then run it through the machine.
If you watch somebody thread a projector, the hand movements are always the same, always the same. We can thread them in the dark if we have to, because it's all about hand movements. Close your eyes, get the feel, put your hands the certain way as you're doing it, and it will end up right every time.
After a certain point, you get faster and faster. Someone who's been doing it as long as I have can do it in under a minute. With 10 projectors, it would take me about 15.
You are taking 24 pictures a second with a film camera. And when it's run through the projector, it's the same thing happens. They have what they call a gate, which is the aperture is here. Light's here, comes through the aperture, focused, and the film runs through it. 24 frames a second.
It stops to shoot the image out and then moves to move to the next picture, and then shoot that image out, move to the next picture, shoot that out, just over and over and over again.
That's a ballet. That's an intricate little dance that it does. There's this illusion that they're just watching a solid thing being projected on the screen, whereas you're watching like a flip book.
It's not a fluid motion, but our brains fill in the gaps.
The projectionist arrived early enough to make sure that all would be working well. There will be no faults or interruptions to mar it, and attention to the film and the enjoyment of it will be undisturbed.
Your whole job is to present the movie as a projectionist, and we take that very seriously.
Everything they see and hear is my responsibility. If the movie screws up, it's my fault. So I do my best to make sure nothing screws up. I'm sure there's a little bit of if they only knew. If they only knew how hard this was. Then, you realize not everyone asked to see the chef at a restaurant. Not everyone wants to thank the chef for a delicious meal. They just want to eat their food. Just watch your movie. Enjoy it. I hope everything goes great. I hope you leave here with a smile. Because, that's enough.
My favorite experience I've ever had was I was getting ready to start a kid show, and the kid turns around and he looks at me and waves. So I wave at him, and then hit the button, and I pointed at the screen, and the image hit the screen. He turned his head, and he snapped his head back to me like, magic, man. I'll remember that for the rest of my damn life, that kid. I can see his face right now. He was amazed. It was just a very cool experience. To be the guy, to be that guy. That's fun. You rarely get to be the guy in your life. You rarely get to be cool. So when you get to give those things to kids, that's a very, very rewarding thing.
I like building movies. I like breaking down movies. I like moving movies. I like threading films. I like being part of that, They can pay me hardly anything because I love this job. I will do this job. It's more tangible than, say, digital or anything like that, because, digital, it's like setting a playlist. It's not that involved.
Hooking a digital up, if all you have is the one movie, maybe half an hour loading it up, and then maybe 2-3 minutes putting the show together. Just like you would with the film, only it's on a screen.
And you don't even have to hit the button, they're scheduled now. So you set up the schedule and it automatically fires up the machine. The only thing you have to worry about is if the machine has a mechanical failure.
And with digital, sometimes there's no fix. Like this theater's just down for now. Whereas, regular projectors, it's, I just need to grease this wheel or I need to adjust this and now it works.
it comes naturally to me to do digital type stuff and to do computers and that sort of thing, but the fun of it's kind of dead, you know. It's just boop. I think that the people like us that have worked with it and have been involved in it, yeah, we'll miss it, you know, because it does have its own sort of beauty to it.
At the time when digital first started, we started getting digital. This older gentleman who had been doing it forever. He was here way back when there was still a union job, when everyone was experts and could build and like rip these projectors apart and put them back together again and run them all fine. And he was just disheartened. It was like, and as soon as I saw his reaction, I'm like, oh man, all this knowledge and skill is useless now.
This is the last movie I'm going to build. I like building movies. It's a fun process, something most people don't get to be a part of, don't get to see it, and it's something I do every week. And you know, after so many years of doing it, I'm pretty good at it. And it's just like, it's finding out that a talent you've developed over time is suddenly going to be useless. It's hard to find a job you like, that you're good at, you know.
You know, I think the film companies have basically stated, as of 2014, we're not shipping film anymore. It's not going to happen. So you either go digital or you're done.
They had just decided we're not doing film anymore. We're not making film, we're not making projectors, we're not making film equipment. You know, tough shit.
You know, one of my favorite things is when you're in a theater by yourself, you know, you go to that matinee show and you realize nobody else is in there. You've seen a movie, you've come to see a movie that's 4 or 5 weeks old and they've put it in a theater kind of at the end of the hall and nobody's going to see it, and you sit in there and you're watching the movie, and then the movie gets real quiet. There's a quiet scene and you can kind of hear that clack, 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 clack.
You're not gonna hear that clack when you're in the theater anymore. Like, I mean, you miss the sound of everything.
It's there all the time. You don't realize it because you're focused and intent on the movie, but it is there, and it's a part of the experience to me.
You know, I can do other things. I can do other things very well. This is what I do best. And yeah, that's gonna be gone.
You know, for me, it's a different thing. I mean, you're watching digital, which is great, but it's not film. It's not living and breathing, you know, which film does. Film lives and breathes. And digital is just zeros and ones. I had a lot of good people that worked for me that really worked hard and worked for cheap pay because they love the movies and they love their job and they enjoyed working for me. And those are the people and the things I'll miss and I'll remember. I'm happy that they all stayed with me to the end, but sad to see them go. You know, it's kind of tough. I had a lot of good kids that worked for me, and I had a lot of good people.
It feels like an ending for sure, but because it's such a finite ending, it's done. I guess it's a little easier to handle.
It's hard to be bitter when you're blessed with getting to do something that you love. You know, my father told me, if you spend your whole life finding that thing that you want to do that you love to do, and if you find it and you're lucky enough to get to do it for the rest of your life, that's what more can you ask for?